4,000 years ago, someone carved Horizon of Khufu inside the Great Pyramid. Proof it was his tomb, archaeologists said. Until last year's chemical analysis showed those hieroglyphs were carved with iron tools, 800 years before iron existed in Egypt. Someone added them later. Someone wanted you to believe this was a tomb. Meanwhile, 37 million people have now seen Christopher Dunn's analysis proving the entire structure is a machine. And the civilization using it for power, they died when it exploded.
Rabbit Hole!
Welcome to the Rabbit Hole Chronicles. I'm Percival Blackwood. The Great Pyramid of Giza, 2.3 million stone blocks, 481 feet tall, the last wonder of the ancient world. You know it as Pharaoh Khufu's tomb, but that's the cover story. The truth is that for 4,500 years, we've been looking at the most sophisticated power plant ever constructed on Earth. A machine so advanced that we're only now developing the technology to understand how it worked. This isn't speculation. This is the conclusion of aerospace engineers, nuclear physicists, and manufacturing specialists who've spent decades analysing the pyramid with instruments that didn't exist even 20 years ago. What they've discovered will fundamentally rewrite human history. Christopher Dunn has designed and built components for NASA for 40 years, creating parts that function in the vacuum of space with zero margin for error. He holds multiple patents in laser technology and precision manufacturing. When Dunn first measured the granite coffer in the king's chamber, his instruments showed something impossible. The interior surfaces were machined to tolerances of 2/10,000ths of an inch. That's tighter than the tolerances in a modern jet engine. With copper chisels and stone hammers, impossible. But that precision was just the beginning. Throughout the pyramid and other Old Kingdom sites, Dunn found evidence of machining capabilities that exceed what we can do today. Drill holes in granite showing feed rates of 0.100 inch per revolution, 500 times faster than modern diamond-tipped drills achieve. Saw cuts in basalt with perfectly parallel grooves indicating speeds that would destroy our best industrial saws. The Egyptians weren't using copper chisels and stone hammers. They had powered machinery, and massive amounts of power require a massive power source. That power source is the pyramid itself. Through 20 years of analysis, Dunn reverse-engineered exactly how this machine operated. Every chamber, every passage, every dimensional relationship serves a specific mechanical function. Once you understand the engineering, you can never see it as a tomb again. Here's how the machine worked. Start at the bottom. Beneath the pyramid, carved deep into bedrock, is the subterranean chamber. Egyptologists call it unfinished because its walls are rough. But that roughness is intentional. It creates maximum surface area for acoustic interaction. This chamber was the pulse generator, the heart of the machine. The Earth constantly vibrates with microseismic activity. These tiny tremors are always moving through the planet's crust. The subterranean chamber was designed to capture and amplify these vibrations using a hydraulic pulse generator. Water would flow through the chamber, and using what engineers call a ram pump effect, each seismic pulse would create a pressure wave. That wave would travel up through the pyramid's 6.5 million tons of stone. But here's the genius part. The pyramid's dimensions aren't random. The base perimeter of 3,023.16 feet divided by its height of 481.3949 feet gives you exactly 2 pi. The pyramid is mathematically tuned to resonate at a specific frequency, the fundamental frequency of the Earth itself, approximately 7.83 Hz. When that initial pulse from below hits this precisely tuned structure, the entire pyramid begins to ring like a giant stone bell. Moving up to the Queen's chamber, we encounter the fuel cell. When 19th century explorers first broke into this sealed room, they found the walls coated with up to ½ an inch of white substance. Chemical analysis revealed zinc chloride, ammonium chloride, and hydrochloric acid traces, the exact byproducts of a hydrogen fuel cell. 2 narrow shafts connect to this chamber, In 1993, German engineer Rudolf Gantenbrink sent a robot up the southern shaft and discovered it ended at a small door with copper handles. Copper, a conductor. When they finally drilled through in 2002, they found another sealed door behind it. These aren't air shafts, they're chemical delivery systems that would feed hydrated zinc chloride down one shaft, dilute hydrochloric acid down the other. The reaction produces hydrogen gas, leaving behind exactly the salt residue found on the walls. Now we come to the Grand Gallery, one of the most magnificent architectural achievements in human history. It's 157 feet long and 28 feet high, with a corbelled ceiling that narrows as it rises. Along both side walls are 27 pairs of slots, evenly spaced. Egyptologists have never adequately explained these slots. Some suggest they held wooden beams for construction, but the slots are too precisely cut, too carefully positioned. Dunn realised what they were: mounting points for Helmholtz resonators. These are acoustic devices that amplify specific frequencies. Each resonator would be tuned to a harmonic of the pyramid's fundamental frequency. When the acoustic pulse from below reached the Grand Gallery, these 54 resonators would amplify it enormously, creating a focused beam of sound energy aimed directly at the King's Chamber. The King's Chamber is where physics becomes almost magical. Built entirely from Aswan granite, containing 55% quartz crystal. When focused acoustic waves bombard quartz, the piezoelectric effect generates electricity. The entire King's Chamber complex, including the 5 relieving chambers above, becomes a massive piezoelectric transducer, converting acoustic energy to electrical energy. But remember, hydrogen gas is also filling this space. When hydrogen atoms are excited by electrical fields at specific frequencies, they release energy as microwaves. The chamber becomes a natural MASER, microwave amplification, by stimulated emission of radiation. The northern shaft acts as an input waveguide. The southern shaft outputs the amplified beam. The pyramid was broadcasting power wirelessly. The evidence for this isn't just theoretical. In 2018, physicists from Itsimo University in Russia published a peer-reviewed paper in the Journal of Applied Physics, proving that the Great Pyramid can concentrate electromagnetic energy in its internal chambers. When they modelled electromagnetic waves interacting with the pyramid, they found it naturally creates resonance conditions that focus energy exactly where the chambers are located. The original casing stones provide more evidence. The pyramid was covered with 144,000 polished white Tura limestone blocks, fitted so precisely that you couldn't slip a knife blade between them. But Tura limestone has a specific property. It's an excellent electrical insulator. It would have prevented the electromagnetic energy from dissipating, containing it within the pyramid structure. Ancient texts describe the pyramid as brilliantly white and giving off light. We assumed this meant reflected sunlight, but anyone who's worked with high voltage equipment knows what this really describes. St. Elmo's fire, the coronal discharge you get from strong electromagnetic fields. Let me tell you about the artifacts that prove this civilization had powered machinery. At the Cairo Museum, there's a collection of stone vessels from the earliest dynasties. Before the pyramids were supposedly built, tens of thousands of them. Many are carved from granite, basalt and diorite, some of the hardest stones on Earth. But here's what's impossible. They have perfectly spherical internal cavities, paper-thin walls, some less than 2 millimeters thick, and complex geometric shapes that include fully formed handles carved from the same piece of stone. Christopher Dunn examined these vessels with modern metrology equipment. The spherical cavities are accurate to optical precision, thousandths of an inch. The only way to achieve this is with high-speed lathes and sophisticated measuring equipment. We're talking about industrial machinery. Then there's the famous schist disc, a 24-inch diameter disc carved from schist, a stone that fractures if you look at it wrong. It has 3 curved lobes that modern engineers recognise as a high-speed centrifugal impeller design. NASA engineers who've examined it say it's designed to operate at thousands of RPM, As a religious object, it makes no sense. As a component in a high-speed machine, it's perfect. At Abu Rawash, there's a granite box cut with such precision that Christopher Dunn couldn't find a deviation greater than 0.0002 inches across its entire surface. That's the kind of precision we achieve with computer-controlled milling machines. The tool marks show whatever cut it was, removing material at rates that would destroy our diamond-tipped saws. Core drill holes throughout the Giza Plateau show even more impossible engineering. When you drill through granite with a tube drill, it leaves a central core. The spiral grooves on these ancient cores show the drill was advancing 0.100 inches per revolution. Modern diamond drills achieve 0.0002 inches per revolution. The ancient drills were cutting 500 times faster than our best technology. W.M. Flinders Petrie, the father of Egyptology, documented all of this in 1883. He wrote that the ancient Egyptians must have had tools such as we ourselves have only now begun to reinvent. He found saw marks showing bronze saws cutting through granite with 9-foot strokes, applying tons of pressure. Hand saws? Impossible. These were powered machines, but the most compelling evidence comes from the pyramid itself. In 1993, a team of Japanese researchers from Waseda University tried to build a small pyramid, just 60 feet tall, using the primitive methods Egyptologists claim built the Great Pyramid. They failed completely. They couldn't even quarry the stones properly, had to use modern equipment to transport them, and still couldn't achieve anything close to the precision of the original. The message is clear. The civilization that built the Great Pyramid had industrial technology. They had power tools. They had precision measuring equipment. And all of that requires massive amounts of power. Now let me tell you about the catastrophe that ended this civilization. Inside the king's chamber, every single granite beam in the ceiling is cracked. All 43 of them, running north to south. The granite coffer has a chunk blown out of its corner. The walls have been pushed outward by about an inch. There are scorch marks on the ceiling. The machine exploded. A hydrogen explosion in the confined space of the pyramid would be devastating. But worse, when a maser fails catastrophically, it releases all its stored energy at once. The electromagnetic pulse would destroy any electrical systems for miles. This explains the sudden collapse of the Old Kingdom around 2181 BC. The great age of pyramid building ended abruptly. Later Egyptians couldn't work with hard stones anymore. They'd lost their power source. Without electricity, their machines wouldn't work. Within a generation, the knowledge was lost. In 1986, French architect Gilles Dormion discovered a hidden chamber behind the Queen's chamber. When he drilled a small hole, sand poured out for 15 minutes. Someone had filled hidden spaces with sand to absorb radiation, to contain contamination. The Egyptian authorities immediately stopped his investigation and sealed the hole. I'll tell you what they're hiding. They know. The Egyptian government has known since at least 1993, when they stopped Gantenbrink's robot exploration. They know the pyramid is a machine. They know what happened to it. And they know what's still inside. In 2017, the ScanPyramids project discovered a massive void above the Grand Gallery using cosmic ray imaging. It's at least 100 feet long and 50 feet high. It's exactly where you'd expect to find the main reaction chamber of the power plant. The space where the energy conversion took place. The Egyptian authorities have forbidden any exploration of this space. They won't even allow non-invasive investigation. Why? Because the technology might still be dangerous. Because the knowledge might destabilize our entire economic system. Because free energy from the Earth itself would end the petroleum economy overnight. Think about it. Every major government has a vested interest in keeping this secret. Every energy company would fight to suppress it. Every power structure that depends on controlling energy resources would collapse if people learned that our ancestors had free, clean, unlimited power 4,500 years ago. That's why the hieroglyphs mentioning Khufu were added later to sell the tomb story. That's why exploration is restricted. That's why legitimate researchers like Christopher Dunn are dismissed as pyramidiots by the archaeological establishment. But the evidence is too overwhelming to hide forever. Independent researchers have measured electromagnetic anomalies around the pyramid. Tour guides report that electronic devices malfunction inside the king's chamber. Visitors describe feeling physical effects: dizziness, tingling, the sensation of static electricity. Russian scientist Dr. Alexander Golod built a series of pyramids in Russia based on the Great Pyramid's proportions. Without any power source, these pyramids spontaneously generate measurable electromagnetic fields. Seeds stored in them grow 30 to 40% faster. Water doesn't freeze inside them until minus 40 degrees Celsius. Razor blades placed inside become sharper. The pyramid shape itself is a technology we don't understand. It focuses energy in ways our physics can't fully explain. The ancient Egyptians didn't just build a power plant, they discovered fundamental principles of nature that we've lost. Nikola Tesla knew this. He studied the pyramids extensively. His Wardenclyffe Tower was designed to tap Earth's natural electrical charge and transmit wireless power globally, the same principle the pyramid used. JP Morgan shut down his project. "If anyone can draw on the power, where do we put the meter?" Morgan allegedly said. Tesla's technology was suppressed, just like the pyramid's technology is being suppressed now. But the truth is emerging. Christopher Dunn's analysis has been downloaded millions of times. Independent researchers around the world are conducting their own investigations. The Russian electromagnetic studies are being replicated. The Japanese acoustic experiments are confirming the resonance properties. We're on the verge of rediscovering what our ancestors knew. The pyramid is telling us how to build clean, unlimited power systems. It's showing us how to work with the Earth's energy instead of against it. It's offering us a way out of our environmental crisis. All we have to do is listen to what it's actually saying, instead of what the authorities tell us it means. Now, let me briefly address what mainstream Egyptologists say. They point to surrounding mastaba tombs and mortuary temples as proof it's a cemetery complex. But that's backwards. Later, Egyptians built cemeteries around the pyramids because they thought they were tombs, copying what they didn't understand. They cite work as graffiti with Khufu's name, but as I mentioned, it's written with iron oxide that didn't exist in Egypt until 800 years later. They claim there's no evidence of advanced technology while surrounded by precision drilling and machine surfaces they can't explain. They simply refuse to see what contradicts their timeline. The truth is clear. Engineering doesn't lie. Mathematics doesn't have an agenda. When you measure precision that exceeds modern capabilities, when you find machining marks we can barely replicate today, that's evidence. Christopher Dunn holds 9 patents in laser technology. When he says the pyramid is a machine, he's reading the engineering blueprint written in stone. The Great Pyramid has been trying to tell us something for 4,500 years. They gave us the solution to our energy crisis, encoded in a monument so massive it couldn't be destroyed. Every day we burn fossil fuels while ignoring the solution standing in plain sight. The pyramid isn't a monument to death. It's proof that our ancestors solved the problems we're still struggling with. It's a message across millennia. We did it. You can too. All we have to do is stop calling it a tomb and start understanding it as the machine it really is. This has been the Rabbit Hole Chronicles. I'm Percival Blackwood, reminding you that the biggest lies aren't the ones they tell you. They're the ones they build monuments around and dare you to question. The pyramid is still there, still waiting, still offering its secrets to anyone brave enough to look past the cover story. Until next time, keep questioning everything, especially the things carved in stone.